Welcome back, dimensional travelers and abyss conquerors. We are standing at a monumental crossroads in the Genshin Impact universe. The absolute legend of the abyss, Skirk, has officially descended on the Rerun banners. But let's cut through the marketing hype and speak with brutal candor. The 2026 meta is a terrifying landscape, with the revolutionary Lunar reaction battalions right around the corner threatening to completely rewrite the damage ceiling of the entire game. Investing your precious Primogems into an older, highly restricted cryo powerhouse feels incredibly dangerous. You are probably asking yourself, is Skirk mathematically obsolete? Or is she harboring apocalyptic potential that the mainstream community is entirely ignoring? Today, we are completely deconstructing her combat architecture. I am going to walk you through her phenomenally complex dual stance mechanics, her absolute best-in-slot armory, the ruthless reality of her team-building restrictions, and whether she deserves a spot on your roster over the impending Lunar characters. Buckle up, because this is the definitive, no-nonsense Skirk Mastery Masterclass. To unlock Skirk's true catastrophic potential, we must first decipher her insanely unique elemental framework. Her entire offensive engine revolves around a resource called Serpent's Agility. Let's dissect her elemental skill. The moment you trigger this ability, Skirk envelops her weapon in an abyssal frost, granting her an unbreakable cryo-infusion for exactly 12.5 seconds. During this window, she acquires supreme resistance to interruption, meaning colossal enemy attacks will simply bounce off her while she continues her lethal choreography. For exploration fanatics, holding the skill trigger allows her to literally levitate and traverse the battlefield with haunting elegance. But the true magic happens behind the scenes. Igniting this skill instantly injects 45 points into your Serpent's Agility reservoir. To reach the absolute maximum cap of 100 points, you must actively trigger freeze reactions, combining hydro and cryo forces while her blade is coated in frost. Mastering this resource accumulation is the fundamental key to unleashing her devastating maximum output. The dual stance dilemma, nuke versus barrage. Option A is what I call the orbital strike. If you crave astronomical screen-clearing damage numbers, this is your path. Upon activation, she unleashes a ferocious pentagram of 5 consecutive lacerations, culminating in a cataclysmic final slash. However, to maximize this devastation, you must perfectly align the stars. You require the maximum 100 Serpent's Agility points, and you must possess the Void Rift buff generated from her passive talent. If you detonate this burst while harboring over 50 agility points, the system automatically devours 12 of them to supercharge the final multiplier. It is a terrifying spectacle of raw mathematical power. But what if you despise relying on ultimate cooldowns? Enter option B, the relentless barrage. If you prefer an aggressive, sustained on-field gladiator playstyle, you can completely bypass the cinematic nuke. After activating your cryo-infused elemental skill, simply tap the ultimate button again. This forces Skirk to inhale the surrounding void rifts, morphing her standard action animations into a hyper-accelerated, brutally amplified flurry strikes. You sacrifice the singular giant number for an avalanche of consistent, high-velocity critical hits. It is entirely up to your personal combat philosophy. Passive talents, the double-edged sword. Her primary passive, Reason Beyond Reason, introduces the Void Rift mechanic. Whenever your allied forces inflict hydro or cryo devastation upon the enemy, dimensional tears, void rifts, materialize on the battlefield every 2.5 seconds, capping at 3 anomalies. As we discussed, Skirk consumes these rifts to either amplify her ultimate nuke or supercharge her normal attacks. Furthermore, consuming these anomalies grants her supplementary Serpent's Agility, artificially extending her cryo-infusion to its absolute 12.5-second limit. If you fail to harvest these rifts, her uptime dramatically collapses. But her second passive, Return to Oblivion, is where the community becomes severely divided. This talent enforces a ruthless, ironclad restriction on your synergy matrix. Your entire battalion must consist exclusively of hydro and cryo entities.
Bringing any other element nullifies the passive entirely. However, if you obey this strict elemental doctrine, Skirk receives the Death-Crossing blessing. This buff stacks 3 times and artificially inflates her skill and burst damage modifiers by an astronomical 160 to 170%. It is a monumental sacrifice of team flexibility in exchange for god-tier multipliers. Her final passive, Mentorship, is a beautiful quality-of-life bonus, artificially raising the elemental skill level of every Hydro and Cryo ally in the party by 1 full rank, adding tremendous off-field value to her supports. Your rhythm should look exactly like this. Initiate combat by igniting her elemental skill, deliver a relentless sequence of exactly 5 normal attacks. By this time, your allies' off-field abilities will have generated void rifts across the arena. Immediately consume them, either by triggering her alternate burst stance or executing a fluid charged attack. As the fight progresses and fresh void rifts materialize, weave intermittent charged attacks into your combo to harvest them, permanently sustaining your buffs and maximizing your field time. If we look at a premium synergy matrix, for example, a battalion comprising Skirk, Furina, Escoffi, and Shenhe, your rotation requires surgical precision. You must deploy Escoffi's abilities early to shatter enemy resistances. Shenhe drops her icy quills, Furina unleashes her hydro-mimics, and then Skirk takes the stage to detonate her ultimate. Crucially, and please listen to me carefully here, you must discharge Skirk's ultimate before you start cycling through your supports a second time. Why? Because after casting her ultimate, she suffers a rigid 6-second lockdown where she cannot reactivate her skill. If you mistime this, you completely forfeit the 60% damage amplification provided by her signature artifact set. Patience and timing are your greatest weapons. If you are pairing her with the Hydro Archon, Furina, the undeniable champion is the 4-piece Marishosi Hunter set. This configuration is a masterpiece of consistency. Because Furina forcefully manipulates the health pools of your entire vanguard, Skirk effortlessly maintains the maximum 36% crit rate steroid. This removes the agonizing burden of farming crit rate substats and heavily caters to the relentless normal attack barrage playstyle. However, if you are pursuing the astronomical orbital strike nuke build, or if Furina is occupied on your opposite Abyss team, you must farm Skirk's signature set, the set released specifically alongside her in 2026. This set injects that vital 60% overarching damage multiplier, though it requires that flawless rotational discipline regarding her 6-second cooldown window that we just discussed. Finally, we have the veteran's fallback, the Blizzard Strayer. This set remains mathematically supreme, offering a ludicrous 40% crit rate, but it possesses a fatal flaw in the modern meta. It requires the enemy to be permanently frozen. With Hoyoverse actively introducing unfreezable leviathans and relentless boss monsters into floor 12, this set's reliability has plummeted. Use it only if you have a god-tier vintage set lying around and the enemy lineup permits it. Stat-wise, your objectives are crystal clear. You are hunting for an attack percentage sans, a cryo damage goblet, and a cricklet tailored to balance your critical ratio. She requires absolutely 0 elemental mastery and 0 energy recharge. Do not waste a single substat roll on them. Your baseline operational targets at level 90 should be 60% crit rate, breaching 200% crit damage, and a minimum of 2,000 total attack.
At the absolute pinnacle of the hierarchy sits her signature weapon, the Light of Foliar Incision, or whichever specific signature variant you prefer. It provides a mountainous injection of crit damage and flawlessly harmonizes with her elemental scaling. Trailing closely behind is Ayato's masterpiece, the Haran Gippaku Futsu. If you have elected to pursue the normal attack barrage playstyle, Haran is a terrifyingly effective substitute, supplying a monstrous 40% modifier to her basic strikes. The legendary Mist Splitter Reforged and the primordial Jade Cutter remain phenomenal universal stat sticks, though Mist Splitter's passive is slightly hampered by her unique burst mechanics. But what if you refuse to engage with the weapon banner scam? Fear not, the free-to-play armory is remarkably robust. For Battle Pass subscribers, the Black Sword is a magnificent engine for boosting her sustained combo damage. Do not equip the Wolf Fang. It artificially inflates skill and burst damage, completely ignoring her essential normal attacks.
For strict free-to-play purists, the event-exclusive Calamity of Issue is a godsend, offering incredible damage amplifiers if shielded. Alternatively, the Fontaine Craftable Blade, Finale of the Deep, grants a massive attack steroid. However, be warned, this blade inflicts a bond of life upon Skirk, meaning you must run a dedicated high-output healer in your battalion to cleanse the corruption and unlock the weapon's true power. The undisputed premium vanguard consists of Skirk, Furina, Shenhe, or Sitlali, and Escoffi. I need to speak with absolute candor right now. Please listen carefully. If you do not possess the character Escoffi in your roster, my professional mathematical advice is to immediately abandon your plans to pull for Skirk. Escoffi is not a luxury, he is a fundamental necessity. The theory crafting data is brutally clear. Without Escoffi anchoring your formation, Skirk violently hemorrhages nearly 50% of her maximum potential lethal output. No other hydro or cryo support can remotely compensate for that cavernous deficit. Assuming you do have Escoffi, Furina operates as your unparalleled damage amplifier. Your final slot belongs to a cryo enhancer. Sitlali is phenomenal for wielding the Thrilling Tales catalyst and generating colossal attack buffs via the tenacity set. Shenhe provides an astronomically higher damage ceiling, but her icy quills evaporate quickly, demanding significantly more chaotic quick-swap management. If you are lacking the premium cryo supports, veterans like Rosaria for critical rate sharing or Layla for impenetrable shielding are exceptional budget alternatives. Ganyu can even be repurposed as a luxurious burst support to grant continuous cryo damage bonuses. If you lack Furina, Yelan, or a hyper-fast applicator like Xingqiu will fulfill your hydro requirements beautifully. If you are debating between unlocking her first constellation, C1, or acquiring her signature weapon, the mathematics heavily favor the weapon. C1 is a respectable improvement to her Void Rift consumption, but a top-tier 5-star weapon elevates her baseline lethality across every single combat scenario. However, if you are a dedicated saver aiming for the ultimate power spike, Constellation 2 is a game-breaking milestone. C2 dramatically accelerates your Serpent's agility accumulation and injects a jaw-dropping 70% holistic attack improvement. It transforms her from a great DPS into a terrifying force of nature. But I promised you brutal honesty regarding the 2026 meta. If you are a hardcore meta slave, a player whose sole ambition is to obliterate the Spiral Absinthe in world record time with maximum mathematical efficiency, Skirk is a trap. The upcoming Lunar reaction teams are fundamentally restructuring the game's power scaling, and investing heavily into a restricted, older cryo archetype is a strategic error. You should hoard your resources for the Lunar roster. Conversely, if you are a casual adventurer who deeply resonates with Skirk's phenomenal Abyssal aesthetic, her incredibly satisfying levitation mechanics, and you already own Escoffi, then pull the trigger. Genshin Impact is ultimately a game of passion. An optimally built favorite character will always bring you more joy than a mathematically superior character you despise playing. What are your intentions? Are you braving the banners for the Abyssal Master, or are you holding the line for the Lunar Revolution? Let me know your exact strategy in the comments section below. If this brutally honest deconstruction helped illuminate your path, please obliterate that like button and subscribe for more elite Genshin Impact theory crafting. Stay safe in the Abyss, travelers, and I will see you in the next transmission.